Well, Disney's 1937 animated film Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs follows Snow White as she befriends the Seven Dwarfs while hiding from her wicked stepmother, who later poisons her with an apple before Prince Charming wakes her from her slumber with a kiss. Now, it was loosely based on the 1812 fairy tale of the same name by the brothers Grimm. And as Daily Wire reports, Snow White was Disney's first feature film. Its success turned around the studio's fortunes, but it contained elements that do not fare well with the left's sensibilities almost a century later. They're doing a remake, and critics accuse the original film of being misogynistic, since Snow White cleans and cooks for 7 men and promotes sexual assault when the prince kisses a sleeping Snow White without consent. And so Disney, who can no longer say ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and who have fairy godmothers who are men in dresses with beards, are now doing a remake of Snow White. Now, they really should just call it a new name completely rather than destroy a traditional story. But let's check it out. So you'll all remember this favourite movie.
It's a family night special event.
It's home from work we go.
They're the Seven Dwarfs. Doc, bashful, sleepy, sneezy, happy, dopey, and grumpy. She's the fairest one of all.
Someday my prince will come.
Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs.
Snow White.
I'm Snow White.
The princess. She stays.
Spend an enchanted evening with Snow White.
Yeah, there we go. According to a report in Forbes magazine, Disney's live-action remake of the 1937 animated classic Snow White and Seven Dwarfs, it's going to hit the theatres next year in March, starring Rachel Zegler as Snow White and Gal Gadot as the evil queen. The only issue is that, as you can see, it's not going to be, strictly speaking, Snow White. Well, where's the diversity in that? Despite the story being built on the fact that she's called Snow White because the story comes from a German tale about a princess with skin as white as snow, a traditionally fair German princess. Oh, and we can't have Seven Dwarfs. That is completely unacceptable. In fact, there will be one dwarf. Disney has changed its approach to the Seven Dwarfs for the live-action edition, casting a diverse set of actors, including reportedly just one actor who has dwarfism, as well as actors of different races. The new companions appear to be a mix of genders, ethnicities, and heights. So it's Hispanic Snow White, one dwarf, and some friends from the local diversity club. Yes, that is as woke as. But apparently, an enchanted story that from more than 80 years ago must be changed to reflect the new cultural god of DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion. And especially this bit about the non-consensual kiss. And I'm not sure you can call people dopey, grumpy, bashful, and sneezy anymore. In fact, I read that those weren't the worst names that were considered for the dwarfs. It was revealed not too long ago that some of the rejected names included Deafy, Baldy, Sniffy, Lazy, Stuffy, Tubby, Shorty, and Burpy. There's a few I could fill there. Co-written, now this new version is being co-written by the director of the Barbie movie, Greta Gerwig. And the upcoming adaptation will not feature a Prince Charming and will instead focus on a stronger Snow White who dreams of becoming a leader. And in an interview with the actor who will be Snow White, she says, well, you know, it's no longer 1937. She's not going to be saved by the prince, and she's not going to be dreaming about true love. Have a listen.
The cartoon was made 85 years ago, and therefore it's extremely dated when it comes to the ideas of women being in roles of power and what a woman is fit for in the world. And so when we came to reimagining the actual role of Snow White, it became about the fairest of them all, meaning who is the most just and who can become a fantastic leader. And the reality is, Snow White has to learn a lot of lessons about coming into her own power before she can come into power over a kingdom.
Also, the fact that she's not going to be saved by the prince, and she's the proactive one, and she's the one who set the terms, is what makes it so relevant to where we are today.
Yes, what makes it so woke. Conservative commentator Ben Shapiro criticized the comments accusing Disney of making Snow White into a girl boss story by focusing on female empowerment instead of her journey to find true love. And Godot, who will play the evil queen, said in an interview, Snow White is not going to be saved by the prince. She's the proactive one, and she's the one who sets the terms, and that's what makes it relevant. Now, why the change? Well, according to the Forbes report, the film's updated portrayal of the Seven Dwarfs, which was revealed through the set pictures which were leaked recently, follows a rebuke from Game of Thrones actor Peter Dinklage, who criticized the company for remaking a backwards story about seven dwarfs living in a cave together. And in that same month, Disney said in an effort to avoid reinforcing stereotypes from the original animated film, it was consulting with members of the dwarfism community to inform its approach to those seven characters. Now, Elisa McHugh from the Heritage Foundation says, well, a change no one on the Snow White team has explained yet is the racial appropriation of casting a Latina actress in a specifically white role. I mean, it is in the character's name, after all. The original text of the 19th century tale describes the princess as having skin as white as snow, lips as red as blood, and hair as black as ebony. If Disney is truly committed to presenting genuine, authentic, and respectful storytelling, as stated in its DEI mission statement, then where does casting a Latina woman fit in? Now, Dylan Possel, a professional wrestler best known for his days in the WWE as Hornswoggle, criticized the casting for getting progressivism backwards. He pointed out that the change puts more little people out of work when considering the numbers of actors and stunt doubles that could have gotten work from being cast if it was Seven Dwarfs.
So it's not a progression at all to me. My issue with it is exactly what you said. There are actors, dwarf actors, that that dream to be in a major motion picture such as this Disney remake. And now, because Peter Dinklage said what he said last year, now it's taken away. And it's taken away because of quote unquote progression and all that. And it's not right, because these are roles made for actors of my stature, roles that aren't ever really given. I can't go out for the Harrison Ford or the George Clooney roles because that's not for me. These dwarf roles are for people of my stature.
Right.
And now it's taken away. I don't feel that's right. And not only that, but now think about the additional stunt actors or body doubles or that. Now you're talking multiple actors of my stature that don't get these major roles. And why? What's the reasoning? Because we're supposed to be progressive and we're supposed to just not view them as that.
Well, you know the
these
irony.
Were heroes.
The
all
irony.
of these dwarves, all of the...
Yeah, well, he makes a good point, doesn't he? But an article in the Daily Mail actually sums up the general trend, and it says the reboot comes since 2020. Disney have slapped racism warnings on some of its most iconic movies, including Peter Pan and the Jungle Book, to alert viewers to sensitive scenes. Movies with warning include the 1970 musical comedy The Aristocrats, 1955 canine love story Lady and the Tramp, and 1960 adventure Swiss Family Robinson. In relation to The Aristocrats, Disney warns viewers about a scene where one cat, voiced by a white actor, yells out stereotypical Chinese words while playing the piano with chopsticks. Peter Pan viewers are warned that Native American Indians are referred to as Redskins. Disney says scenes in which Peter and the Lost Boys dance in Native American headdresses are a form of mockery and appropriation of Native people's culture and imagery. The Jungle Book has also been highlighted, namely for its depiction of the ape King Louie, which was accused of perpetuating a stereotype of African Americans. And 1941 release Dumbo came under fire for its reference to racist segregationist laws in the Deep South, as well as its use of affected African American voices. And Lady and the Tramp has been placed on the list due to its perceived stereotyping of Asians, courtesy of Siamese cats Si and Am, while A Dog Pound features canines with largely ethnic names and accents. Woo! Now, Elisa McHugh from the Heritage Foundation, she says, look, there is nothing wrong with wanting to imagine an original story. Take, for example, the 2012 interpretation of the same source material in Snow White and the Huntsman. Marketing for the movie made it very clear that Snow White would be strong, a fighter, and a leader. No one was under the impression that the film producers were trying to fix the classic tale. It was a clear deviation from the original source material, and it did well at the box office. But herein lies a contention with the upcoming live-action remake. It is not a remake, it's a replacement. It is virtue signaling hidden behind the original title, and adults no longer trust Disney to show their kids virtues and values that align with their own. Yeah, that's the key point, isn't it? Many parents no longer trust Disney, sadly. Now, Elisa continues, she says, the moral of Snow White is that kindness, not vanity, will get you far. Snow White showed kindness to everyone and everything, from nature's creatures to the dwarves who look different from her. This lesson overshadows any perceived faults the movie has simply because it was a product of its time. In fact, the National Endowment for the Humanities said in 2015 the Grimms thought the stories and their morals emanated naturally from the German people in an oral tradition, and they wanted to preserve them before the tales were lost forever. By changing the crux of Snow White to appease left-wing sensibilities, the moral lesson gets watered down. The original tales are one step closer to being lost, as the brothers Grimm had feared. Now, finally, on a lighter note to finish this episode, satire website Babylon Bee broke this news on their website. After mounting criticism from an avalanche of 3 people online, Disney has decided to release a new cut of the classic film Snow White. Sources say the new version will show Prince Charming walking up to the bed where Snow White lies, cold and dead, under the evil queen's spell. He will then try to get her to wake up so she can sign a consent form. After several unsuccessful attempts, he will walk away like the true feminist hero he is. The movie ends with a time lapse of Snow White slowly wasting away until she's nothing but dust. Inspiring. We've never seen the movie and don't plan to, said the 3 people online, but we are pleased Disney has chosen to do the right thing here. Woke as.